3, public questions. A member of the public may ask a question and make representations. Public questions are limited to 10 minutes in total, and it may be necessary to limit the time allowed to each person in accordance with the standing orders for D to J. Please note that the Parish Council may only take a decision where an item is raised is listed elsewhere on the agenda.
This relates to agenda item 6, to receive minutes. Finance Committee agenda for 9th of February 2023 contains 6 items. The Finance Committee minutes 16 to 20 show 5 items were discussed.
Gary, can you speak up a bit? I can't hear you.
Yeah. Do you want us to start again?
Yes.
No, I think...
No, start again.
All right. I'll start again for you. Agenda item 6, to receive minutes. The Finance Committee agenda for 9th of February 2023 contains 6 items. The Finance Committee minutes 16 to 20 show 5 items were discussed. After item 5, the public were excluded from the meeting. The Finance Committee minute 22 show item 6 was discussed. That completed the discussion and motions of the published legal agenda issued by the Clerk on the 5th of February 2023. However, Chair Evans, Clerk and his fellow committee members then chose to ignore the legal requirements of agendas. They went on to add unpublished items onto the agenda, which they minuted as 23A to D. Not content with that, they then unlawfully passed 3 unpublished motions. These are minuted as 23E, F and G. These unlawful motions, which have no legal basis, have now appeared on tonight's FPC agenda. Can Chair Evans and the Clerk explain why they have ignored both UK legislation and their own standing orders at the Finance Committee and consequently at this FPC meeting?
The agenda, as far as I'm aware, was to agree steps relating to items relating to audit, and that's what was done.
And I would confirm that as Chair of the Finance.
To review the appointment of the internal auditor and to agree any recommendations in full. That was the agenda item.
Yeah, well, that's what we did.
Well, that's not what
No,
you
because
minutes.
because
It is, that's what's minuted.
And the next ones. On the no.
Well, you might...
Well, you'll be discussing the minutes, so we can hear what you minuted. There's agenda item 14, which is the contract with John Wood Landscaping. You might want to hear those public questions while you discuss it, or it's up to you.
Sorry.
If you want to crack on, Gary, I'm happy to hear them now.
It's up to you.
Which ones these ones?
Are we going to be able to
we'll just see what the what the house is.
specifically hear what Gary's got to say?
I think so.
No.
Sorry, before you continue, I will say we are, the Parish Council's a bit sparse on numbers tonight. So it's my intention not to carry out a vote on matters relating to item 14 when there's only half the council here.
Is the meeting quorate?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, continue if you finish.
Right, so agenda item 14, contract with John Wood Landscaping. My or agenda items being used to predetermine or influence the outcome before any discussion is taking place on this and other items on the agenda. Paragraph 1 is being presented as fact. Where is the evidence to support this unattributed statement? Paragraph 2 is incorrect. Northumbria Police have confirmed to me that the victim, which I assume is Felton Parish Council, would not support a prosecution even though they reported the crime. Can you confirm who made that decision and when? Paragraph 3 is nonsense. Ex-Councillor Hood remains the registered VAT account holder for VAT number GB 369205777, which appears on the FPC invoice from John Wood Landscaping.
Gary, could you send those questions in writing and I'll make sure they're answered for you?
Well, I did offer to ask them when you were discussing the item, but
While we're discussing the item, if you have anything else to add, I'll certainly listen to you.
Thank you.
But like I said, in relation to this particular matter, where we've only got half the parish council, I'm not going to put anything to a vote because I don't think it would be deemed as fair. If you can put those questions to us, I'll make sure we get answered for you.
all right.
So any other questions?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to do this.
Agenda item 15, you've got closed session on grant funding. This item is worded to influence the outcome, to predetermine the outcome. It's just a statement of fact. Agenda item 17A, garages. I've seen various statements made about what can and can't be done following the decision of those garages. I have written on Facebook in response to a question by an ex-parish councillor actually about what action could be taken. The parish council could actually carry out a pre-action protocol which costs nothing, which I fully explained on Felton Thurston matters. Sorry? Public questions actually on your own thing is for public questions or statements.
Or statements.
Yeah. It is possible under this procedure, which costs nothing, to possibly get this decision reversed. The actual process has to be done within 6 weeks.
Right.
2 weeks have almost elapsed already.
I think John did comment on various Facebook posts to say that it would be on the agenda tonight because we couldn't do anything until a meeting.
We'll talk about that later on.
Well, one of the questions I would like to maybe bring up is that as the gentleman not here for the garages, would it be possible for that committee to bring that item forward so that it can be discussed?
Yeah, well, since Trevor's arrived now, I'm more than happy to change that. We can carry on after public questions. We'll talk about that next. Any other questions? Greg?
Just on item 15, the closed grant, I just want to make it clear to the committee, because we are going to be discussing it, it is a statement that makes it sound fait accompli, but the grant actually said, please make sure the news of the grant is not made public. Not the discussion of the grant, so the news of the award is not made public. That's fine, I understand that until they've made the publicity. What was stated at the meeting though was we can't discuss this and you had to close the meeting. So I just want to make it clear that the wording in that grant, as provided to us by the chair, was that the news of the grant can't be made public until it's been announced. So therefore it was, I would say, illegally closed. Just for you to bear in mind when you come to discuss that point.
Any other questions?
We're just going to do it or
I'm going to talk about them now. Feel free if you have any questions. Right, so we'll move straight on to item number 17, which is a list of ongoing planning matters. We'll talk about that in a moment. Item B is the outcome of the planning application 22/03/896/FUL, which is a Mouldshaugh Lane garages. Anybody like to go for this?
And then I can summarise the council's actions. So obviously after putting in the original objection, we were invited we were asked to let them know if we wanted to speak during their committee meeting. We were given quite short notice of the date for the committee meeting, which meant that quite a few people were at work. Councillor Cllr had kindly volunteered, despite having recently joined the council, to go forward, and a statement was agreed with him that he would make at the meeting. He did report, so the statement is included at the back of the agenda paper that he put forward. It was based on the objections we'd already raised and, you know, a bit more detail and emphasis on why we thought that it was should be refused. Councillor Culpit reported following the meeting that the motion had passed, so I'm just going to read out exactly what he put in his email, so it's a bit colloquial. Motion passed, planning approval granted, I'm afraid. Trevor Thorne gave a very good, very impassioned defence of the village and the garages. I was quite impressed. Another councillor called Mather from Wooler also voted for our side of the argument. A couple of others had some sympathy for us around loss of amenity of the garages. Our statement also had good effect. The safety angle, especially around school pick-up and drop-off time and potential ambulance call-outs, and the workshop amenity, I think, hit home. However, the chairman, Gordon Castle, kept coming back to houses versus cars, and it was very influential, and a number of councillors agreed and voted along. Overall, I wasn't impressed by the committee. They didn't take Trevor or some of the arguments all that seriously. So I don't know if Trevor's got anything you want to add at that point.
Yes. You know, Councillor Culpit gave a very good presentation in the public speaking slot. And obviously, as a sort of local councillor, I was the first to speak. And I moved refusal. I said that we should keep the garages because there was a local need, and I felt it was wrong that we were going down this avenue. Obviously, it's council policy, or they have adopted this policy of converting redundant garages into low-cost units. Now, our garages in Felton are well used. Yes, they haven't all got cars in, but you know, what do we use a garage for? We use a garage to store stuff that we can't have at home. We use our garages to store gardening equipment if we've got an allotment. We use them as workshops, and yes, we do use them for cars. Now, way back in the day, those 30 garages were built really to service Davison Avenue, the Oval, Barnes Road, Southview. There are very few parking spaces there, and there are very few garages, and that was a need, I think, you know, voiced by the village of Felton, and as a result of that, those garages were built, you know, serving, what is it, nearly 150 houses. And you know, the argument I made at the meeting too, not only were we losing the garages, but there are chronic parking problems around the avenue. Now, you know, as a planning member, I'm not allowed to make up my mind until the day, but I did approach Rob Murphy, the Director of Planning, and I said that, you know, I haven't made up my mind, but I was going to find it difficult supporting the recommendation to take away the garages from Felton, because I still felt there was a need. And he said, well, there's got to be a severe reason, Trevor, a really impressive reason. And I said, well, I do feel that, you know, there is a reason, because, you know, these garages are still there, they're still needed, people use them. And the only reason that we're getting rid of the garages is because the council has adopted this policy. Now, you know, I was invited as well by Husk, you know, the company that are putting forward the conversion of garages to low-cost homes. And I did visit sites in North Shields and in Leamington. And, you know, I was told that these were redundant garages, and these were the homes that were being converted. The North Shields one was just in the process of being converted, but the Leamington site, people were actually living in the 4 bungalows that had been created. And there were, you know, nice little bungalows, but there were, you know, they were low cost, they were prefabricated. And, you know, the argument I made at the site visit when I went along was that I didn't think this type of design would fit into Felton, you know, sort of flat-roofed bungalows in the middle of our village. And of course Husk said, well, you know, we're prepared to alter the design for Felton and have some hipped roofs. And I said, well, that's very well and good, but it doesn't get away from the fact that, you know, the parish council and myself feel that we need these garages for the folks of Felton. They should be kept as garages for our villagers. And, you know, my own particular problem with this is, especially, you know, Southview, there is nowhere for the people to park. You go and visit Southview and, you know, you're lucky to get a car parking space. And yes, the council, and we have talked about having a car parking scheme, but never any money has come our way. And, you know, that problem is still there, and I feel it's a severe one. And, you know, I'd hoped that the committee would have listened to me. The whole purpose behind, you know, these local area committees is to take planning away from central planning, but bring it back to the people. You know, and when the parish council, the local county councillor, the folks of Felton voice their opposition to a scheme for, you know, real and valid reasons, you know, they should be listened to. But I just felt at this planning committee, they were rubber stamping the policy. They weren't listening to the fact that this was an amenity that Felton had and still needed. So, you know, extremely disappointed at the outcome, and I just felt that a lot of the planning committee were more keen on this little plan to deliver low-cost housing rather than listen to the problem, a real problem that we have here in Felton.
Thank you. One question that we've asked repeatedly throughout the whole of this is who's going to be moving into this housing, and do they actually have anybody on the waiting list to go into it? When we were originally presented with the concept during the pre-planning phase, when they were originally introducing it to us, they were saying that there was a housing requirement for it. However, we've got similar buildings within the village which would give that provision, which are currently underused. And as I put in the statement that Alan read out, we have had previous instances of people from outside the locality being, you know, placed in Felton that we have struggled to be able to accommodate quite complex social needs of them. They've not had a support network here, you know, they've not had family here or anything, and that has caused tension within the village and things. Now, as far as we know at the moment, there's not been anybody that's kind of, you know, said, I would like to live in this accommodation, and I'm personally quite concerned that we're going to generate a stigma for that with the current situation that we've got. Do we know if they've actually got people that are waiting to move into this accommodation, that they're planning on starting, you know, the conversion relatively soon? Do we know?
Well, we don't really know. We don't, you know, but they say there is need.
I think when they talk about locality though, and they say need, it seems to be quite a lot wider than a village community in itself. And the whole idea of Husk is to keep, usually elderly people close to their families and things, in enabled living and whatnot, where they've got a support network around them. If those people are being brought in from outside, it's not just, as I put in the statement, ambulances and, you know, vulnerably challenged, you know, drivers and things that are going to be driving past our school during pick-up and drop-off. It's also going to be the carers going in now, which is a really, really tight junction of things.
Yes.
And we could be, you know, anticipating, you know, quite a lot more traffic, and also people. I mean, I know when my nan was having, you know, carers going into a home up to 4 times a day, they were often different people all the time, different agencies, people that didn't know the area. And, you know, I'm anticipating, I mean, I know it's only, you know, a small number of bungalows, but we could have difficulties on our hands here, and we've had no promise from Northumberland County Council either about any road improvements for it, resurfacing of Barnes Road, anything like this. You know, and every time I'm there during the busy times at school, I'm looking at where the cars are parked, where the kids are crossing the road, where there's people with dogs on leads and things. You know, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And we haven't been, although they've said, yes, we're putting this through, they're not shown us anything. Here are the solutions to the problems that you've given us about it. It's just, oh, we've taken those into account, and that's it.
Yeah, I think part of their argument too is that if these low-cost bungalows are available, then elderly people maybe living in bigger houses in the surrounding areas might move out of the big house,
If
free
they're not
that up.
already moved out of the big house and moved into the vacant premises on Barnes Road, then why are they going to move out into these ones?
Yeah, well, exactly. Now, I was as frustrated and as annoyed as you were. I just feel it's a Northumberland County Council policy that they're wanting to roll out, and they weren't really listening to the great amenity that those garages bring to the village. People want to be able to park near their homes, they want a garage near their homes to store things in, and they're working the allotments, they want somewhere for the garden equipment because there's nowhere in the house. Do we, as sort of modern people, we like a shed, we like a garage where we can accommodate this sort of stuff. And the argument was put, but it fell upon deaf ears. It really did. So, very, very disappointing.
That's what I said all along. Them garages is part of our community.
They
So
are.
the people place to live in them.
No, exactly.
Yeah, we
I've
said
been
that.
there for 40 years, and the garage for 40 years.
And we said that, we did say that in the statements.
Yeah.
So
So
can I-
put through a huge mental
Part of
health
life.
Yes, exactly.
Not just
and well-being argument earlier on and things. When they first started talking about it, they started saying, well, could we set up a workshop community anywhere else in the village? And we were like, it's already there. We don't need it, but it's like, we just need you not to sacrifice the garages for something that we don't currently need at this moment. And we were getting all of this kind of answers back from them as ways out of it. It's just that this seems to be a policy, a project. And I mean, out of the box, I really, really respect the whole HUS concept where it is used correctly. And I've said that to Trevor before, but Felton just wasn't the place for it. But I think what we need to look at now is that we've, had a look into it, the legalities of things, and the only way that we can consider going down the path of legal proceedings to try and stop it is if we think that this has been done incorrectly and has gone through unlawful planning.
It was a contract from the start, wasn't it? That's what us think. It was a contract right from the start.
Well, I do. I don't think, as locals, the planning department or the planning committee had their ears open and were listening to the real reasons why these garages should be kept under.
What happened to all the votes? Was it felt fair in here? There's paperwork up that everybody works stuff out.
But that wasn't part of the planning
It
consultation
was
process.
the new home felt.
I know they did.
And a lot of people couldn't use the technology to go on the website. Website's shocking to get onto. You know what I mean? There should have been something set up for people to try and help somebody use it, you know what I mean?
So
The whole purpose of a pre-action protocol is the first step you can take is to request information. And the information you've just been talking about, you can request it. Copies of all the consultation that was done, which is the evidence they used to justify their case.
So they'd have to have contrary evidence as a justification. So if, like you're saying, that there was a lot of people that turned up to say that these things were not appropriate for the area, then that would show up in these documentation. And the fair, I don't know whether the fair itself was slightly more biased in terms of what was presented.
The people at the fair don't even know what the garages were.
Well, I was being generous, yeah.
These people at Felton didn't know what the garages were.
Well, I think, I like other councillors, the concept of them is a good idea, but these are not redundant garages. These are working garages.
Which is what we said time and time again.
Yeah, but I think it depends on how this was put within the work and these consultation documents, and this is the kind of thing that can be agreed.
In the pre-committee submissions, Highways made a number of very strong objections and said that unless there were guarantees that the safety of access was properly dealt with, they would oppose the planning consent. And I just wonder, was there anybody
Well, there
from
was
Highways
mention
said?
of Highways, but Highways seemed to think that all their planning objections were being met.
Yeah, but that's where you need evidence.
Yeah, but
because
you know,
They put in extra,
say it.
they actually did put in extra documentation in to mitigate the problems that were initially brought out. So I think they changed some of the parking area to make things slightly wider, and then they put a third application, a third sort of document in, which again sort of was trying to mitigate some of the problems that the previous one had sort of left out, but they still sort of passed it. But I think there's still room for manoeuvre within that, because, like Councillor Cuthbert was saying, that there's a lot of traffic toing and froing.
Yeah.
The single space, the single visitor space that is available will be snapped up by somebody from school that's maybe in there, you know, picking up children.
So probably have 4 carers.
Well, exactly that. So there is room for manoeuvre in terms of the parking and traffic issues going around that site. Again, that would come up within putting this sort of this.
Well, when I read the report, it seems to me that the committee ignored the evidence and the statements that oppose the development, and I don't know whether we can ask for a judicial review, but that would probably be the only way to get it reversed.
It wouldn't necessarily, so you have to object to the procedure.
Yeah.
So you can't say that you don't agree with the outcome, you have to say that the procedure is incorrect. So you're basically saying that
the chairman.
that it was illegal, so that might be that they considered a matter that they shouldn't have considered, or they failed to consider matters that they should, and this might feed into the things about the fact that there was vacant garages because they weren't letting them anymore, and they sort of implied that they were just vacant garages and didn't give a reason for that. It could be things like they had a whole series of objections which they failed to properly represent, although they weren't objections at the planning stage, there were still objections that they had received and whether they took them into account. Or you can object that the whole thing was so irrational that no rational committee, and I don't think we would be able to go down that route. And the last one is that they didn't follow the proper process. So again, perhaps if they had implied to people that the consultation at the village hall counted as an objection to the planning, but it would be, I guess, hard to show that.
I think there's substance in the argument that NCC have manipulated the situation, because as you say, if a garage became vacant and then was never offered to anyone else, and of course, your councillor Culpert made that very point, said that there are people, around the village that want these garages, but of course they're not being offered to them. Yeah. It's not the fact that they're vacant. And if I can highlight one other thing, again, this isn't just Felton. I think we've got a scheme coming up in Rothbury, we've got one in Wooler as well, but in my own village in Longfram, we haven't got purpose-built garages, but we do have a site behind Church Street, behind Nogley Way, behind Cherry Hope, where the council owns the site, and people have put up their own garages, but now when the council houses are being re-let, the new residents aren't allowed to take over the garage of the previous owner. And again, to me, I'm worried that, again, we're going to have those private garages removed and a similar scheme put up by Husk. But, why aren't NCC re-letting the garages in Longfram? I think for the same reason that they haven't re-let them in Felton, because they want to argue that they're not used, they're redundant. And, that argument isn't right. No. It's not.
There's only one out of the garage up there. Except for lock-ups, there's a few empty lock-ups, there's only one garage.
But you know, I would like to think we're not going to be beaten on this one. You know, we've got to, you know, fight our corner and, you know, say to NCC and the planning department that, okay, this decision has been taken, but we're not moving out. We're not giving up our garages. We're not. There's a real need for them.
How many empty properties are there? Bungalows on Lawrence Road? 2.
I'm not sure if there's somebody in one.
So,
Is there somebody in one?
There was 2 bungalows and there was 2 flats at the bottom of the police station,
right. So
and there's a 3-bedroom house round the corner on Mouldshaugh Lane.
So there's initially that's what we need is a list of the empty properties that and how long they've been empty. The list, obviously the garages that have not been let, that there is a waiting list, and now people know that there are garages potentially available in the future. I'm sure that list would grow because, you know, I didn't know there was garages that you could potentially let, so others maybe who would like to have that. So you've got that element. You've got the consultation element that the people that put consultancy documents in haven't been sort of listened to. You've got the fact that they are not redundant garages; they are working garages, and there's a community element to that. What else? Come on.
I would see that. So, Gary's right that there's a 6-week time limit, but that's so. My understanding is that there's a 6-week time limit to within which you have to submit the actual claim form, and in the meantime you have to jump through a number of hoops. So the hoops are that you've got to have basically written a pre-action letter to the other side. So I would suggest that that does need to be done by a planning specialist, because it will then form the basis of our claim going forward. And I think if we were to get something wrong, then we've missed, you know, that time window is very quick. The other thing is, I'll just finish this very quickly, Gary. The other thing is that I'll read it out in a minute, but there's their proposed next steps are that they will start serving notices on some of the garages. Now, they're planning that that's going to take place on the 20th of March, which is very long, and I think we would need to indicate to them that they shouldn't take that action. In the meantime, if we are looking at a claim, and if we're in the process of sending them a pre-action letter, because I think that you wouldn't want them to do that, and then, you know, supposing we did succeed, to then have them have that already happen, and then they can, after they receive our letter, say we will revisit the decision or we'll change our mind. But if they don't, you do need to be aware that, because it's just looking at the process, if it did go to court, the court would look to decide whether they had taken the decision in an improper manner or in a legal manner. And if they found that they had, if there was something that was improper, then all that would happen is it would be sent back to the same committee to retake the decision properly. It isn't that they would overturn the decision and say we're going to substitute our own decision. It's that they would say the decision wasn't taken properly, go away and take it again properly. So they could reach the same decision, and I think that is we do need to be aware of that.
But I think in the meantime, you know,
I think you need to read what I wrote on Facebook and look at the link which the Government Justice Department published, which tells you exactly what the pre-action protocol is.
I am aware what the pre-action protocol is.
Can I just finish my point?
Yeah.
The first thing you need to do is literally inform them you're going to start the pre-action protocol, and you request the information that you haven't got from them, which is stuff like the guys just mentioned and all the things you've been mentioning. So you don't have to put your case forward, you're simply asking for the information. The council are then obliged to provide that information in a very rapid manner. And once you've got that information, you can add that to your arguments you've got already and then put together a letter before case. The letter before case is you put your case forward as to why they've done the wrong things. You're not restricted to anything in there to do with planning or anything else. You just put your case as you see it, right? The council will then respond to it and either agree with you or disagree. It's up to them. The point about all this is the pre-action protocol is there deliberately to avoid going to court. It's there so that you've actually made an attempt with the council to sort the problem out without going to court. Only if that then fails, you can then decide you want to now go to a judicial review. They are two separate things.
They are separate things, but the thing is, I think we need to get that letter right. We need to get the request for information right, and the letter that goes to them does have to be correct, Gary. So I would say
can I just say, I've actually done this myself for the airfield, and you can check this for yourself. It's all on record. I've done one of these myself. It's very straightforward. You don't need to be a qualified planning person or anything. It's actually meant to be straightforward using simple English. That's the whole point of it.
So is it a case of the more the merrier then? Are you prepared to do one?
No, that would actually not be helpful.
How?
Because it's him.
Well, exactly that.
No, seriously.
There's no requirement to. Why would I have to do it?
Well,
The council are dealing with yourselves as another level of local authority.
Yes, but
Actually, I'll have to say this. This parish council never had this matter of the garages on your agenda as an agenda item at all. The only time we discussed this is when these guys turned up and started asking questions about it. And you can check on your agendas. You've never put it on as a standalone item. It's not even on your ongoing matters list. Never has been.
okay.
So you've got the opportunity of having not actually done a good job on it to now step up to the plate and at least make the effort.
I'm sorry, Gary. Having done a good job to it,
Correct?
you know you're very familiar with the planning portal, and you know that personally I've put an objection in, the parish council has put an objection in, which has noted every gentleman that's sitting here who's said something, their opinions have been heard and it has been listened to. So saying that we haven't done a very good job of it is
I'm pleased you pointed out that
now,
you...
Don't interrupt, Gary, I'll give you the time to speak.
Right.
Now, it is a very contentious matter that a lot of people in this room feel very strongly about, and if your intention is to create an argument rather than help your local villagers come up with a solution, then it really isn't, in my opinion, worthwhile continuing this conversation. Now, anybody else in the room that would like to talk about what we're going to do next with the garages, I'd more than happily prefer to listen to you going forward from here.
Actually, since you've made that accusation...
The perfect placed person, having just done this thing I'm talking about, that you may be able to assist, and you do have a good grasp on what you're talking about. So to then not want to do it is entirely your opinion. We are here, voted in by all you guys, to try and do the best job we can. But for you to say that we haven't done a good enough job is a little unfair.
Well, you made a statement that you had put a personal objection in, and correct, you had, as had Cllr Evans.
Yes.
Only 2 councillors put personal objections in from this parish council.
But the parish council also put one in.
okay,
So
I think actually...
But
I
you
think,
also made a statement that you think I'm just being argumentative here. Well, you guys who are at the garage, do you think I'm actually being unreasonable in what I'm saying? Let me know, and then I'll shut up.
I think actually, I think the fact that you're actually asking Gary if he would like to do this judicial review, or the letter before case, I should say, is a little bit rich actually, coming from. Sorry, Cllr, was that
Obviously
something?
find it amusing.
It's
No, it is. I've just seen the agenda. I've seen the agenda for today. Okay, so I think it is actually the fact that the agenda that's been put forward, and I think it is a bit rich actually asking him to do that. So anyway, I think we should just move
Possibly
on.
just the best qualified person for the job is what we were saying.
Yeah, it was
Thank you
actually.
for the compliments, decline
Well-
it, but you know, at the end of the day, that's what we were saying is, do you want to be involved with this? Would you like to do it? You know, we are a bunch of, as it is, naive volunteers that just try and do our best here. And that is all it is. The week that this happened was half term, and I was trying to get out of work that I knew I couldn't have done so I could go and attend that meeting. Not so that I could be with my kids. You know, they were in childcare and I was still trying to get out of work so I could actually go and represent this. I couldn't get out of it. You know, don't say that we're not doing a good job or we're not trying our best or at least not dedicated.
I don't remember saying all of that actually. What I said was that this item has never been on the agenda of this parish council as a standalone item.
We have had
just
some
move on.
meeting about it.
Now, if you want some good representation, you've got a county councillor there who actually has just been supporting everything you've been saying. So I assume that county councillor will be only too happy to assist Cllr to actually put together a package as a pre-action protocol application. I would imagine Councillor Thorne has a lot more clout within Northumberland County Council than I have.
Well, you know, my thinking on this issue is to write to Rob Murphy, the Director of Planning, and also write to Glenn Sanderson, the Legal Council, saying, you know,
Tell them it is Newton Village.
yeah, well, exactly, you know, how let down we feel we are.
Right.
And how, you know, Councillor Sanderson's recently been saying, you know, the local area committee, it's taking planning back to the people. But here we are, the first time that, you know, we've got a real issue in Felton that we want the planning committee to listen to. We feel, you know, they've all had their ears shut, they've just ignored us. And, you know, it's not NIMBYism, it's not some fad, this is a need for garages in Felton. We know it's there, they're used, a real amenity. Come on, we want our garages back. And, you know, I think we have got a case, and, you know, what I would urge the people of Felton to do is, you know, shout loud and, you know, talk to people and say that, you know, yes, this decision might have been taken, but, you know, we're not accepting it. We want our garages. They were built by the district council. There was a need for them because we haven't got parking places, we haven't got garages. 30 garages were built, and because this, you know, little scheme comes along, because that scheme comes along, it isn't right that, you know, our garages are taken away. You know, I think they've fabricated a case, you know, pushing their own agenda on these low-cost homes, and they just haven't listened to us.
And the other person who must be addressed is Gordon Castle, who was chair of the committee. And I know from personal experience that he generally, where there's anything controversial, goes on site with the committee. And as far as I know, he's not been to Felton or met with any of the residents or the garage tenants. So, you know, I was really surprised that it was largely his influence, at least according to Alan, that swung the committee to reject all the other objections. So, you know, I think Gordon Castle bears quite a lot of responsibility, and
well, I wouldn't
he's
say,
a nice guy,
yeah,
but he needs to listen to what people say.
well, exactly.
And he generally does. You know, I personally had 2 planning applications turned down by the committee, and on the second hearing, Gordon said, well, we can't decide this year, we need to go and look at the property. And pay a visit, have a committee meeting on site, and then make a decision.
Well, you know, it would be good if the folks at Felton, you know, could write to members of the planning committee, the chairman, obviously your local councillor is on side because I'm in grasp of the information. I know what the situation is, but though the rest of the planning committee let us down.
But Trevor, is it not too late for that? As in, the only way now is via challenging the procedure, because it's...
Well, we can challenge the procedure, but we can also say, you know, it's never too late. We can also say that, you know, you haven't listened to us. It's important.
What with the planning, I mean,
It doesn't need.
is there a power of, can the planning committee reverse its decision just because it gets more comments in, you know, for public pressure? I just feel like we're saying to people to do that. Is there actually a point to it?
There is a point to it, because we're asking them to rethink again. We are.
I think also, regardless of whether or not we've got a turnaround, what this represents is that Northumberland County Council's complete lack of regard for what is an infrastructure crisis that we've got here at the moment. That they are completely happy to overlook and be blasé about the fact that we have got this crisis with parking, with access of various, like, you know, multiple parts of the village, which this signifies, and that they're not looking at that. What we need before we get further development here is for them to address the infrastructure issues, which, you know, they've been, you know, spoken to on numerous times with the work that Fiona did with regards to the, you know, the Overland South View work and things, and you know, and that has been drawn to their attention, and they're continuing to completely ignore it.
Yes, no, well, I agree. And that was the point I made. You know, I said, the times I visit Southview, you know, you can't get parked.
So there's three were the garage was going to get chucked in. And the three was in Southview. It's me, John, and old Bill, and the guy, which is me.
And I would just say, no, you know, I'm not giving up my garage. The district council, the rural council built that garage for me as an amenity.
No, they didn't build them garages. It wasn't a garage. They weren't garages.
What were they?
It was a hostel.
What's
There's
the hostel converted?
There's people in the village who can't have garages. They still can't at the hostel. It was built for the poors. Then what was in after that?
But there was a need for the garages, wasn't there?
No, I think they've bought them now.
And you know, there's not one garage attached to any of those houses, or parking spaces. You know, people have adapted, they have, and some park in their gardens, but, you know, at the time, a garage wasn't essential where it is these days. We've all got cars. We all need space to store stuff.
That was another waste of money. Why did they put all them driveways in? They were pulling driveways out to put driveways in.
Well, the problem is still with us, and, you know, I take the councillor's point. You know, we've got a parking problem, we've got a garage problem. In Felton, this doesn't help the situation, it makes it worse.
The parking problems that we're trying to address in the Oval and South View obviously were turned down, and with contradictory comments from NCC officials. The money was there for the Oval, and then it was removed. No, well, we had it there for the Oval, and then it was refused. We have been awaiting the survey, which is well over a year, when the chap came to South View, and that was going to be ready by the end of January of last year, and that's never appeared. I know that obviously the working group haven't been working on that element either, but it's just being ignored. The infrastructure in Southview is falling apart.
There's slabs going to fall in.
I've seen it. I've been round with Trevor, and I've been round with the officials, and they were doing the survey, and it was supposed to come back.
After 3 off the wall for the kids that don't fall.
So all of the garages, and obviously all the cars, that will just concentrate more vehicles, cause more damage, and the infrastructure will fail even.
It doesn't matter because it's Southview, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
Well, we don't exist.
So with that in mind, then, can we ask the parish council, are we going to do this pre-action protocol letter?
Yes, we'll have to try. And
Could we form, Chairman, a little subcommittee just to look at this and see, how we can challenge this decision and, try and get it reversed?
well, I guess we'll have to have a vote on that, but I think that's a good idea.
And, I would be happy to work with a little subcommittee on that.
So we have so the proposal is to set up a working group to tackle NCC on the garages. All those in favour of setting up a working group? And we can invite members of the public who'd like to be part of that. The more the merrier. So if there's anybody, if you want to put your hat in the ring right now, or if you want to have a little think about it, if anybody can contact the parish council, be a member of that group, and we will. When do you think we can have the first?
We should have had a Thursday here, but it's been postponed.
We have short notice, but we have an opportunity to have a meeting this Thursday if anybody can make it. 7:30. So 7:30 this Thursday, and we'll put a plan together. Everybody sitting around this table is all in agreement that we don't want the garages to be these bungalows. I think we've talked about it enough. Hopefully we'll see you all on Thursday. If anybody has anything else they'd like to say, if you have written any objection letters to the council and didn't find them on the planning portal, can you bring them as well? Because it's all evidence that we have tried to get our voice heard but disregarded. My own personal opinion is it's a little underhand. It's not necessary. We need to try and save the garages, so we'll do everything we can. Trevor, if you're able to make it on Thursday, it'd be great to have it.
I am free on Thursday.
Is there anything else from a county councillor point of view? Is there anything else you think you could do?
Well, no, I as I've said, I will write to the head of planning. I'll write to Glenn Sanderson. I know this is a policy they're pushing, and I know the Gazette said, quite rightly, the council were rubber stamping their policy. They were rubber stamping it. But what they weren't doing was listening to us, listening to the parish, listening to the locals, listening to the local county council. And, we want them to do that. We do.
Can I just ask Trevor, because I know this will become apparent when we get the information through, but was there at any point in this plan application or pre-planning that you were in support of this project?
Was I ever in support?
Yeah.
No. I was never in support of it. Like yourself, I like the idea. I thought, well, if there are, in certain areas, redundant garages that aren't being used, they're central locations, they're low cost, it does make sense. But Felton isn't the place. We don't have redundant garages. We still need them, we still want them. I've never been in favour of this. As a planner, you always try to keep an open mind. I did go to Rob Murphy. I said, I'm struggling with this one. I do, I'm a chairman of strategic planning. I've been a chairman of the local planning committee. I like to follow policy if I believe it's right and proper. But, I don't feel that correct procedure has been followed here. I think NCC have created, their own picture to convince the planning committee that this should go through. They've not listened to our, concerns at all. Yeah.
But surely the right hand doesn't know what the left's doing. It's funny, so the wood house up there, you've got plan permission for these garages, then all of a sudden, as 4 council vans turned up one day to start to modernise this house, they've never been back. It's a total joke what they've done with these empty houses in the village. And how long's bungalows been emptied?
Yes.
So one man in the village getting one. This is my personal opinion. If these garages, these houses go ahead, are guaranteed to offer one of them houses straight away to somebody in the village just to try and keep her happy. And it's just not going to work. We're just not happy about it.
No, well,
they're just taking a pure and simple nick out of it.
I agree with you. I do. I'm right with you.
We've just all getting letters saying we're rents. We're electing the rent's going up, and then you're talking about, we're supposed to be going to get the 20th of this
Well, I
month.
think before that, what was said to me was, we just sent an email through because they knew we were having a meeting tonight saying we are right to the garage tenants in the bottom block C. I don't know which one is the C the one that's being kept? No, that must be the little, anyway.
I think it is. Is A and B going, but C's staying? Is it? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, C's staying. We're writing to the garage tenants in the block C, which is staying, who've already advised us they require garaging for their car. These people we asked to provide evidence, valid MOT and driver's licence to remain as garage tenants. That's the first thing. 2, we are writing to garage tenants in the top 2 blocks, A and B, who've already advised us they require a garage for their car. These people will be asked to provide proof of valid MOT and driver's licence, which will then allow them to become garage tenants in block C. We will serve notes on their current garage and grant them a new garage tenancy, so they will be moved. It's envisioned that the notes for the current garage will be served on the 20th of March and will run for 2 weeks. We are writing to remaining garage tenants in blocks A, B and C who have not stated that they use their garage for car but for other purposes to inform them that they're serving notice again same dates. If, after carrying out the above, we find unallocated garages in block C, we will look to allocate these to other local residents, priority to council tenants, who can prove that they will be used for garaging a main car. We're in discussion with the occupant of the standalone garage next to block C regarding this garage being taken down and the panels being reallocated his own land. Thus, Dean will be accessing the void garages over the next few weeks to carry out necessary technical checks.
That's the only course of school, isn't it?
So I'm assuming that when they say they're serving notice, they're going to have to write to people before that to ask for this valid, because they don't know who to serve the notices on until they get the valid MOTs and driver's IDs back.
But I think it would be an idea too, to invite the leader of the council, Glenn Sanderson. He's a local guy, he lives just next door in West Thurston, Eshet, to listen to what the people of Felton have said. Well, I don't think we can invite him on Thursday, but I think we can get him along to the next parish council meeting, just, and, you know, try and get a lot of the villagers here, so he hears.
But in the meantime, we'll have to get this.
We do, but, you know, I'm just thinking ahead to, you know, Glenn's not an unreasonable guy, but, you know, he's trying to get council policy through, but, you know, in this particular instance, we want him to come along and listen to the arguments that our villagers are putting forward for the retention of these garages.
Good idea.
Has anybody got, you know, when they came to do the pre-planning thing, the sort of survey form that they asked the question, because a lot of those questions were very leading. Do you prefer a pitch roof or a flat roof? Not do you prefer a garage or a house?
Yes.
You know, so a lot of the ones that, certainly I did the thing online, and I couldn't say I don't want a house, I just want the garages, because of the way that they'd structured the whole thing, that might give us an in route to say that their process was not carried out in a fair, proper manner.
Anything else anyone would like to say about this?
Can I just want to make this one point. I have harassed a resident of Southview to the point of stalking almost, in an attempt to recruit them onto the parish council. Cllr Evans also has, I think, been guilty of the same crime on a different president who did run for co-option. We desperately sought representation from the area, and we really would love everybody to get involved within the parish council and engage with us as much as possible. We are far from being a closed book, and we need representation from across the village, either on the council itself, at meetings, or within working groups and things. We are, as a village, strongest stand as a community against these things like this, and we are not, we are not a them, and I do not want to become a them, nor have we ever wanted that. And we really, really do want.
That's what you got at the car, you need to do it.
You're an
It's then.
Sorry.
That's what you got.
Please.
I think you'll make it over the course of the last 2 weeks.
Well, it's worse for some of us who don't come from Felton or even Northumberland. I'm from Wales, I can tell you that. But I'm absolutely certain, having spent a fair amount of time at planning committees, that if you guys had turned up at that meeting, that could have made a difference. You know, it's too late to say it now, but I did say it at the time.
It didn't make any difference when they had the meeting here, because they wouldn't listen to it. When they had the
No, well, you know, it's the planning committee who make the decisions at the end of the day.
But your parish council representative, Councillor Evans, did
a great job.
very well, and you should be proud of him. He made the case strongly and with passion and presented a lot of good arguments. So, you know.
I'll take that compliment.
But if we do have a meeting, if we have a meeting with Ben Sanderson, it would be great if, you know, he turned up then as well.
Of course. Also, sorry, one final thing. Haley had some very good footage of the bats going in and out of,
on a phone, yeah.
on a phone. I obviously couldn't use that. I tried to get it to, I don't know if she did anything or if anybody got footage of the other blocks that are going to be converted.
It's definitely bats there.
Yeah, but obviously the bats don't become active now until the end of April, which is when they will start going in and out again. It could be that it is a winter roost, but I don't know if that was ever brought to the attention of County Council when they put the plan through, because otherwise they will need a bat survey and put these provisions in place. And it is the potential that
the worst people there, I don't know to pick anything up.
There was somebody there.
Did someone come to do a bat survey, did they?
Yes, that one.
Yeah, so we need to see what the results for that were and
Yeah.
check that it was actually done.
Well, bats are very important.
We know they're very
Because the survey did.
They were never mentioned at the planning committee.
Starlings as well. Starlings school as well. They're protected.
I don't think it was mentioned in the ecology report. That's, it wasn't, I didn't think it was.
Right, well, thank you very much. We'll see you on Thursday, 7:30. Right.
Trevor, do you want to see if has Trevor got anything else?
I'll show you this photo when the women were demonstrating when I went on that failed cottage room. But I get into this, the building site.
Is this what they're going to do? You see, this is what you need, though.
This.
Yeah.
Well, keep asking.
Do you know which is Felton Cottage? Do you know which is Felton Cottage?
Again, a slight change to the agenda. We'll let Councillor Thorne give us his report.
Well, that's what we need, local protest. You know, the only other thing I'd like to chip in, you know, one little bit of good news, the LTP, the stretch of the road from Felton Village up to the northern access is in the LTP as part of the scheme. So
this bit here, going that way.
Yeah, we're getting that. We're getting that resurfaced as part of the scheme.
Do you think there might be any?
There's only one up, what's the cottage doing? To get a road in and build the houses. They got them stopped, like. Stopped
We
it.
are spending a lot of money on resurfacing.
Okay.
But the speed control can come later from Councillor Thorne, you know, I think.
Will they deal with the lay-by? Because
I don't
every
think
time I drive past, there's somebody parked on it.
I don't think they'll deal with it. This is just purely resurfacing the road, which, you know, we're very grateful for. Anything else we'll have to do, but, you know, if we want some sort of speed control on the roads, then, you know, I would be happy to.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there anything else?
I don't think so. I think that's about it.
Got everything now.
Other than, you know, the budget was passed, which, you know, we're pleased about, but, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Nothing else locally to report. But, you know, let's all really, you know, get stuck in and, you know, make this a good campaign and save those garages for the good folks in it.
Absolutely.
So, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
meeting.
you, Trevor.
Right. Cheers.
Right.
Thanks very much.
Great, cheers, thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
What's the on Thursday?
Rearranged agenda.
Well, we're back to item 4 now.
And yeah, mostly now.
Item number 4, minutes of previous meeting to approve correct record minutes of the meeting of Council held on the 6th of February 2023. So, have we anything you'd like to add or amend or change? Right, all those in favour of approving the minutes?
Should we wait in general, or, well, famous.
We're still for it.
It's not 4-8 with 4.
Item number 5, finance. To receive financial summary and budget monitoring to the 26th of February 2023. From the financial summary on page 8. Is there anything anybody would like to say about that?
What's one thing on the street furniture? We talked about having an extra bin
Yes.
around Main Street and things. And that's still well in the budget, and I just wondered if you wanted that.
Yes, we are going to action that.
The property management committee hasn't met since since the walkabout. Well, we have
No, we
met
have met
since
since
the
the
walkabout.
walkabout. We need to do another one to look at a few different things.
There is quite a considerable amount of work being done on the furniture, so it's to make a battle plan. All right, section B, to authorise payments.
Just to explain that I have been asked by PKF to pay their invoices. So I will need to, obviously we've covered them in the budget, but I will need to move funds temporarily from somewhere else to pay those invoices, and then when we get preset instalment in April, we will be able to put things back, if that makes sense.
Is that what variable means? Is that a
I don't know, so, yeah,
local authority?
so we ought to, yeah.
Great.
Sorry, can I ask a question? Was, because I know the clerk had a copy of the letter that I had when I was chair to PFK Little John about combining the fees. Was a challenge put into their fee?
We asked them for a breakdown, and they provided a breakdown by the number of hours that they'd spent, which I think the consensus was that seemed about. We don't know how we could challenge it more than that really, because it seemed like the right sort of.
Well, the fact they said they were going to combine it, so if they've broken down hours, can you say which of these hours were combined, or what was it before it was combined? Since they said that, because that does seem very excessive for what they said.
I think it's because they've basically, what they've done is they started at year 1, and anything that was repeated in a subsequent year got knocked out, so they've only considered each challenge once. They haven't done like a year and then started afresh with the second year. They've sort of started at the beginning. Anything that was like a repeat or overlap, they haven't looked at twice.
But do we know that from the hours? I mean, that's what I'm saying. Was a challenge put in to say what exactly how are these hours broken down? I'm just asking, that's all.
Yeah, I thought that they had given the number of hours, they gave that information, they gave the number of hours, and they also said that they haven't charged for all the work that's been done. I mean, they made a point that they were trying to minimise the overall cost. I mean, we could ask to see their accounts, but they might not do that.
I can't tell you the exact figure off the top of my head, but my recollection is that it was effectively 2 weeks worth of work in terms of hours. So that's 2.5 days per year.
Right.
That doesn't sound to me like it would have been unreasonable given what they produced at the end of it.
And there's two different rates, didn't there?
Mm.
There was a lot of it.
So the problem really is that the hourly rates are so high and they're set by the appointing authority. But I think that's just how it's added up, because the hourly rates are 200 and 300 quid.
Yeah. And it was a combination of the standard audit and dealing with the challenges. So we weren't just paying for the one thing. Or you were, when you were here.
Well, I had cough last time.
What's the motion for that?
Just to allow me, and happy for me to go ahead and pay that, well, all of the payments, but particularly that one now, or do you want to take any, is there anything further that you do want me to ask? I mean, we've seen the emails at the time, I think, where they broke down the hours.
Right, so are we happy to allow Claire to pay the payments as listed? All those in favour? Or rather, would you prefer more questioning?
I would cross out the word happy and say in favour.
Okay. Are you in favour to authorise the payments as listed? All those in favour? Item number 6, to receive minutes and reports from committee meetings and other working groups. The only notable thing, I met with Ian Bowman, and we have arranged the destruction of the molehills on the wreck, and we are currently monitoring where the hills come back up so the traps can be placed. So that is ongoing. That was a task.
Very enormous.
Yeah.
I've never seen more hills.
It must be the water, like the kind of water content of the soil at the moment, because they're bad everywhere.
It's quite sandy as well, right?
Any other working groups and committee meetings since the last time?
Didn't you have a working group meeting?
Sorry?
Didn't you have a working group meeting on the 16th?
So we did have a working group meeting. We're progressing. We are not at the point of reporting.
Pardon?
We're not. They are putting together a report, but it's not ready yet.
Anything else? Finance committee?
We've got the meeting minutes.
Right. Item number 7, recommendations of the Finance Committee relating to the audit.
I think we should do 7
7A?
Yeah.
To appoint Mr Patrick Canner as the Parish Council's internal auditor for the year ending 31st of March 2024. All those in favour?
Is he willing to do it?
Yes, he is. Yes, I have checked.
And then item B.
This one went to.
So, I think things are becoming more and more apparent that the majority of residents of the village aren't relating to us. They aren't coming to us, they aren't looking at boards, they're not checking the website, and we need to renew our communication with them. Again, we've come back to the same issue again, that people are posting on Felton Thurston really does matter, and thinks that questions are going to get answered there by members of the Parish Council, and that we are manning it in some way. After what's happened with the garages, when I actually had time to go through it all and look at it. Now, the majority of those conversations that had happened on there, I wasn't somebody that had been tagged in it, and I wasn't, no member of the Parish Council was tagged in it. And for anyone who doesn't understand how Facebook works, you need to be either tagged in a comment or one of the comments, or you need to be following it by commenting it on yourself for you to be alerted to it. So, yeah. Okay. So if you're not, then you're not going to know that the comments have gone on there. And then after this happened with the garages, because obviously things were kicking off during my working day, and I've come back and actually have a read through it and things, there's people putting questions on there that are aimed at us, but not like tagging us in or anything. Now, none of us have agreed to man Felton Thurston, really does matter. None of us have that capacity, and it's not something I think is sustainable for us to do. And we need to make sure that that is communicated to the village, because there was one lady on there going, I asked this question on here and it's not been answered, and I'm just like, when I realised this when I went through it yesterday, I was like, well no, it's not, because you didn't address it to the parish councillors. And even when I've been fielding questions, privately and things, I was like, yes, you need to email Cllr about it, and then we can get an answer to you, and you need to request it to go onto the agenda, and this is when we have our meetings, and people aren't even aware of that. We've got to re-engage with the village. They need to understand who we are, what we're meant to be doing, where the money comes from, and what our responsibilities are within the village. I mean, I think the whole thing with the garages has kind of exemplified that as well. So we do need to restart this communication with them and things, and make sure that they are entitled, know that they're entitled to be here and at the AGM as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why under 7B we said that we need to provide that sort of overall picture of what the parish council is, what it does, what are our policies for the next year. It's not just about money, although they do need to realise that they pay for it. Yeah. Or at least they pay taxes that support the work of the council. Yeah. In favour, definitely.
Can I ask, when you did get that post put up today, did you have to request for comments to be switched off? How did you?
I didn't ask. Because you can't do it until they've approved the post.
Right.
There was like 3 likes on it. But,
yeah.
Okay.
And you wanted to want to.
Yeah. Right. Item C.
Well, are we approving it? So
sorry.
are you going to vote on B? Are you wanting to vote on B now, or do you want to wait until you've got one?
I think we've got the format there of what we want to be doing. Obviously, we're going to need to get the whole of the committee to sign off on it once we've formulated it and things. So I don't think it's something that we can okay
so do we
at this moment.
Do we continue the prep of the leaflet and put it to the vote next time?
I think so,
yeah.
The thing is, if you put it to the vote next time, you're going to miss the whole timeline.
But we need
that you're
to,
planning.
it's just to sign off. It's basically sign off on the content, isn't it? So I've shown John a rough draft of what I think it would. It's very much trying to explain I put sections in about all of the things we do around the village, about the street furniture and the roads and the play area and the allotments and everything like that. So, and then we've put in about what this year's budget will be. So it's like, I think the content does need to be reviewed by everybody. And
What about the design?
I've got
Okay.
one on cabinet, if you want to have a look at it.
Yeah,
See
sure.
what it looks like.
I just used a template off Word and it
Does the same
quite
sort of
nice.
thing.
Okay.
What did you think?
I thought it looked fine.
And if we don't approve until the next full council meeting, because it needs full council,
I think
is that going to be okay, or do we need
Well,
to
it's
have
whether or not we want to put it out, because we did say that we're going to have, well, we haven't agreed yet, but one of the potential dates put forward for the parish meeting was the 27th of March. So if we, that would be before our next real meeting, our next council meeting in April. So it's whether we do.
I would have thought.
We struggled with the date. Do you remember we looked at the dates and there was all the bank,
Well,
you know,
Easter and all the
there's
other things.
Easter, there's the Easter bank holiday set, then there's 2 bank holidays at the start of May. It's quite a difficult period
And there is a statutory.
between April and June.
Oh, between April and June. I would
Sorry,
say-
between March and June.
Yeah.
7 days.
I don't think there's any chance we'll be ready for.
Not if we want to put this,
A March
not
date.
if we want to sort of put a leaflet out.
Unless we try and get the leaflet ready for the meeting.
I think that's perfectly okay.
And hand it out at the
I'm
meeting.
having to come
But then we
terms
would be
with
able
that,
to-
but life is just to have things waiting in the wings ready and whatnot, so.
I mean, if you were prepared to agree the content as summarised there, I guess, and to say that the actual copy will be agreed. And does that need to be agreed? Do you want that agreed at a meeting, or do you want to agree?
I think it's fair for the whole parish council to cast a vote on it, because essentially the document is representing our thoughts and our initiatives going forward. So I personally don't think we should take a vote on this right now, but it might be something that we have to.
Can we hold a separate additional meeting for it? You know, like for instance, I don't know, is it next Monday or
Well,
next?
Yeah.
Is it you're heading the whole
We've
week
got
on the
we've got
Thursday?
a rec field meeting booked, not this Thursday, next Thursday. So we could sort of, I mean, if it's just a one item to discuss and approve, we could do it at the start of that.
Provided the members could get there.
When you say the whole council, is that all 10 members? Are you willing to accept 8? Are you willing to accept 7? You've quorate at the
Right, and
moment,
we
so
are
that's what
quorate.
I mean.
We are correct, but I think we were hoping to get, you know, it's.
I think the full council needs to vote on it.
Or as close to.
Or as close to as possible.
Yeah, I think given the fact that it is a look into the parish council, I think
Absolutely.
I may be quite offended if there was a document made on behalf of me that I hadn't seen.
And especially if you were the
Yeah,
chair.
we're going to quote you regularly.
The little photos of you being secretly taken.
And the parish meeting can be delayed.
Could be.
We
Just
haven't
looking at-
got
It's just like we literally spent ages
Yeah, well,
trying to
we did.
find a day.
But I mean, we could look at it.
We'll have
I
to
mean, I
do.
know I just threw one out in the end, but it was like literally I was staring at the calendar going, this is the only time it can possibly work, and now it's just,
The parish meeting is important.
yeah.
It is.
As is this document, but I wouldn't like to jeopardise either. So if you
I
want,
mean, we could go end of April. We could go after the Easter school holidays, say on the Monday, the 24th, which is the first day
I'm
back.
not here,
I'm not here. But if you know,
I mean, to be honest, I'm happy for it to happen without me, provided that.
so we could go a month. We could go a month later. We could go on 24th of April.
We could get a hold.
Do you not?
No, I think that's why we took that one out.
Is that what we looked at? We did go back. We could hold it. We could hold it in a long gallery potentially if they even got people in. Doesn't have to be.
It's a bit later in the year, that it's a bit like summer. I know it's a bit- you never know.
So there's probably out of this wall. Well, we choir's meeting there.
Yeah, you were singing. No, it's 24th
On what date?
24th of April, Sunday.
Well, that would give us a lead-in time to get it done properly and to get it agreed.
And then
And to give people a chance to read it.
leaflet out as the invite to the
Exactly.
meeting.
Yeah, that's,
Well, that's
Because I think
what
that's
it
the
is.
purpose, the main purpose that we discussed, it was to let
It's,
say here.
it's an information leaflet. It's handy to have before the meeting. So
Yeah.
should we do that?
Well, I think that's going to be our best chance. I know I've said we are going to have to consider engaging through social media, but it's our best chance of
Making sure
as
that
many people as possible.
Do you want, so are you happy for me to continue preparing a draft that then can get approved at the next meeting?
yeah, and you can send round drafts,
Yeah.
and I'm more than happy to comment.
Thank you. No, well, I'm going to...
Right.
Or contribute.
Yes, well, yeah, that's exactly what I've already stolen part of what we've done.
Right.
Oh, I did already, didn't I? Yeah.
Right, item C, to introduce a form which anyone with questions about the accounts and audit will be asked to complete in order to create a formal system for the parish council to review matters and address concerns before challenges are made to the external auditor. The form will request details of questions or objections and what the person considers would be a satisfactory solution or outcome, and it will be part of the parish council's year-end process. The form can also be provided during the year when questions and objections are raised relating to the accounting or audit system records or controls.
I think the finance committee, this clip suggestion came from you, but also the finance committee.
Yeah.
It's just a simple case of documenting what we're doing and having an audit trail.
Well, I think it's
So
a
that
way
we
of
expedite
formalising to make
things.
sure we've got the best chance of complete resolution before things
Yeah,
end up going
that's
to the
right.
external auditors. And I think that's something that we need to do to, for the benefit of the community. And we need to make sure that we're doing it properly. And we've got that formal way of dealing with it, which is why I suggested it, and I was happy with that. So. Yep.
So, are we happy to have a vote on that?
I would, yeah, I think that was.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favour, yeah? Excellent.
And then the second part of this was that we would have a time within the period. So if you remember, what happens is we publish our accounts, and then there's a public inspection period of 40 days when it can, people can have a look and question, raise questions. So that we would set a date, a time scale for us within that period to try and resolve any outstanding questions, so that we could. But I don't think we set a date as in the 27th of June. I mean, just a sort of period, I guess. Whether we do that now, whether we do that near the time when we finalise the accounts and say when we're going to pick.
Yeah.
Should we just do it to
I think we agreed to set the date, but not actually the.
So it's just as part. So we'll do it as part of the account ADAR process.
Yeah. Does it say how long the period is?
The period's usually I think it's 40 days.
Yeah.
And it has to go over the first 10 days of July.
Right. Standing item 8. Item 8. Standing item, the parish representation of meetings. To receive reports from councillors on any external meetings attended since the date of the last parish meeting.
Cold. I'm chilling now, I'm shaking. Oh, it's because she sat in front of it.
It's amazing how quick she got cold.
It gets cold
for
fast,
insulation is had spec,
I
isn't
don't
it?
know.
We need some.
Above the ceiling, yeah.
No,
We probably should have drawn the lines down. If
I did think about
30
it
seconds.
and then I could do some
Have we had
aching.
the only 30 seconds? What? Doesn't have that tells you how we can save loads of money on the gas.
Is that the one with lots of space doing a little video?
30 seconds. You can just pull your blinds down or close your curtains. Saves you loads of cash.
It's not like it's not the Minister for Energy. He's like doing an exhibit skip around his house, and then you like
Skip around the house, yeah.
he went round his own house. Was that an news anyway? Are we moving on?
Public
Yeah.
service.
Yeah, moving on, item number 10, update from Northern
No.
Police. None?
No.
Great. Item 11, coronation of King Charles III.
To see that the House is hosting something.
Yes.
So I was going to suggest, rather than like trying to do events and things, and we did a lot for the Jubilee, I saw a suggestion online that somebody had suggested doing a time capsule, and I wouldn't necessarily think we needed to do maybe a physical one, but it would be quite nice if we could somehow put together even a digital time capsule where people put in things, photos from their groups, or you know, like a snapshot in time about what the WI's up to, or what the bowling club's up to, and it would be, so that when we have things, like, because it would be really nice seeing the photos of the hall that they put up there, the display on like that now and then, and it would be nice to have something.
It would be, what I was thinking was that we could do a photography competition of things happening around the Jubilee, and we could like put
Around the coronation.
Is to make like a framed montage of them and things to then issue it out.
Could be showed at the could be on display at the fair.
Well, it could be on stage and have it
Is it there after? Yeah.
I think that would be.
Something like that, sort of more of a commemorative thing.
Well, yeah,
rather
I think
than
something that people can get involved with as well. Would be really nice.
we just suggested for the coronation, I have suggested some sort of like digital time capsule, snapshot in time of Felton. Jen suggesting a sort of photo competition montage of, what's going on in the village to be displayed here or at the fair or something, things like that.
I think I'm rapidly becoming a Republican. But anyhow, yes, I agree.
So that now I found out I'm not working today.
Well, the kids will do stuff, aren't they?
Think about suggestions and we can, make it. Could go in our leaflet that went out.
I haven't got over the last coronation yet.
The last coronation, you mean the
Yeah.
last the Jubilee?
The coronation, 1952. I was there.
Were you there?
Well, I was watching the telly. About that big. Not, we didn't have a telly before those things.
Myself personally, we are hosting a free-to-all party, picnic, village gathering, if you like, to celebrate the coronation of King Charles III. Everybody in Felton and local areas are more than welcome. Look out on Facebook for details. She'll let you know.
Watch this space. So I think it's a big event going on. I think we don't need to do
Yeah, it's not going to
competing.
Should we plant another tree?
We can plan-
Always
We plant that tree.
plan that.
That'd be a Jubilee and coronation tree.
You know the thing that says welcome to Felton? The fact that it's now past where they're already in Felton.
Oh, the other thing is
moving
it's
it.
the other thing is have you seen those
Coronation.
have you seen those village, which is effectively what that is, but the village gateways, which are sort of like, it almost looks like a horse jump. It's got that sort of like,
Oh,
it's
I know,
white
yeah.
tapered fence
Yeah.
and planters at the bottom, and then it comes, so it tapers down towards the road to give people the impression that they're going through a gate, like it's called a village gateway, so you feel like
So you
it's that emotional
Slow down.
blackmail, like, oh, I'm going through something, I'll slow down, rather than just.
We could also use
But we could do something like that, that would be quite nice for the coronation.
The edge of the village where
You could do it really tight. So people can slow down again.
But I think there are requirements. I think it's one of those things that sounds like you could just do cheaply yourself, but actually then you've got to make sure it's conforming to height, like, and sure that
can't
there'll
have
be
it
safety
centralised
barriers,
like that.
stuff, exactly. So it might be worth just buying one, it's compliant, which would be more expensive. So anyway, it's not that much an idea.
To do for the village that
Village gateway.
will mark it and actually enhance something.
And that might have a,
You know, another bench somewhere or.
would we just have one, would we put one on the bridge to mark where, no,
Oh,
that's
it's
called
all
Felton.
bridge.
We should put a line on, shouldn't we? Okay, so I will put these ideas to the next meeting, next meeting.
Okay. Item 12, the fence at the top of Riverside.
Okay, so not really positive news in that County Council is still refusing responsibility of it.
Alongside with.
Well, they've said not. They've
It
said
does, because the wall that comes
Yes,
out from the
I've
bridge
asked them.
is cracked, and then the wall
I've said
that's
that.
retaining the road
I've
is
said,
all highways.
I've said that. I've said that they accept the retaining wall, they don't accept the monitoring fence. I've said that, which is madness. But
NCC put the grass on the top as well.
I know,
So
and
must
they
take the land.
dealt with the tree.
Yeah. So either way, it's not ours.
Listen, the knee rail that's there isn't ours. The land that's on it's not ours. The wall isn't ours.
No, but I mean, it's still. It still feel like
the
it's
knee
a
rail
safe.
is blocking off the drop in
So maybe we just say that then they need to be sure that nobody's going over their land to this
to
accessible
this
drop.
access.
Because
The whole point of that birds,
I'm just
birds
saying,
beef or whatever it's
Birds
called,
have-
that fencing was that they were going to be able to put seats or something behind, so people come out with Run Fox with their nibbles and sit down there and watch the water flow down, and they're going to be falling down a 10-foot drop when they get out of their seats.
should I get? I mean,
Do
shall
we
I
know,
ask
do we
Trevor?
know if that is ours or theirs?
No, it's not ours.
The only bit that's ours is what's down the
so
ramp.
we should be reporting the fence is damaged to the council and ask them to repair it.
Which I have done.
Is this the new fence or
No,
the old one?
the old fence.
But I think one should have to say to them, look, it's not ours and it's a safety responsibility, and then
We should have it.
But further along, past the access to the ramp, that fence is dangerous.
yes.
I see.
Right, I will write a strongly worded email to say it's not safe and you haven't done anything about it.
Can I report something? I saw a man with a small child coming through the gate from the riverside.
Yeah.
Recently, a riverside had said
Well,
because they'd already done it.
Lindsay's wired it on again. We've done that, I think that's been done a couple of times though, and it gets removed. But
That's
I know you
the next item on the list, and we have to have a solution to this.
I am thinking, obviously, everybody's in the same boat as here. Everybody's trying to get any tradesman to do anything at the moment. It's incredibly difficult. That is, on a personal scale, on a domestic scale, businesses, everyone is having to struggle. The fact that this guy's pulled out is really, really disappointing. However, could we do a community effort of removing the ramp that is there at the moment,
We have
which
to
is
do
then
something.
just to stop people from trying to use it? Because until we've got a solution
We
in
have
place.
pot of money from Trevor to get this job done,
Right.
and it's not going to come out of our budget. Trevor has offered 10 grand to get it done. We'll have to find somebody to do it, and this guy letting us down is.
It's because he worked with someone, and the person he worked with is, yeah.
With respect, well,
I know.
waited almost
I
a
know.
year, and so we need rather than taking the old one down and leaving exposed bales and trip hazards and all that sort of
Well,
jazz.
We need to, we need to, I know that people are going through the gate, but I think we have to at least make that effort. We need to put a similar fence gate at the bottom, because Lindsay was saying that even so at the top, where there's now a missing panel of fence, so you can access the river bank and there's nothing to stop you coming up the way up the ramp onto the dangerous surface. So I think we need to fence off the bottom of it as well if you have another spare at least.
Haven't, but I shall go down there and do that. I shall have that done on Saturday, provided we're not covered in snow.
Okay, right. Well, everybody back very. I will put out a call on Facebook for join us again. The ones in the village who previously said they were interested, but we can try again.
Do go landscape gardening type people that do structural stuff.
Are any of them out up at the garages doing this?
Which one?
They're doing those.
This lot?
No,
There is a joiner.
they all use Carl's own.
Carl, yeah.
But Carl's been asked. I mean, this has been. He was asked years ago to look at the ramp. And,
Well, tell them there's a nice fat budget.
I know.
Well, it has to be done by a reputable person. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
not-
niche job.
it is a niche job. We have to be particular about the triple SI.
Yeah.
We have to get this done. You know, we're going to lose another summer.
Yeah.
We don't figure out.
Clear, I've sent you two contacts there
Okay.
that may be of help. garden that kind of runs down into there.
Yeah.
He's some timber work there. So
Well, with respect, the gabion baskets were filled with debris rather than proper blocks. If you go and actually look, you'll see the
do you know where I'm even talking about?
yeah, I do, yes, by the burn where it goes under the road, low close.
Yeah, it's the end house of the low burn force now.
So you just go past the monument, turn down the corner, and as the river goes under that bit there, the gabbion's on the right hand side, the little bridge, yeah.
You get different grades of wire, and the wire there is actually, you can see the baskets are actually
collapsed.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Or a person the wire baskets and the timber work.
Well, with respect, if the
Was that two different people then?
was that two different people?
I wasn't involved in the works there. I just
No.
know that the timber work that looks to be in reasonable manner. Would you agree?
It depends on
Well, from a distance.
from a
it looks fine.
distance, yeah.
From a
But
distance, it looks fine.
Yeah.
Could have been carried out by different people, as far as I'm aware.
it could have been, but if it wasn't, then putting something in that's not.
Certainly, any recommendations for joiners, would love to hear it. Right, so can we have this on the next agenda as well?
Yeah.
And have it as an urgent item on the grounds of safety and it's a public amenity which we're losing at the moment. Right, item number 14. Item 14.
This word was put forward by a councillor who isn't here.
I have 3 questions I would like to ask regarding this. If you don't mind discussing these items, can I just read them as a... Hopefully I have enough battery to get me there. Apologies. Sorry.
Your battery's in the door.
Probably is. Yeah, thanks. I'm happy to talk about them now. I don't intend on passing a motion on this, but you know it's on the agenda, so if you're happy to talk about it. Can't find them. Hang on. Chris, talk amongst yourself.
Just sending a WhatsApp there for a fencing contractor who I don't know if he does that, but he was really good for his fencing. So it might be worth asking him if he can do that sort of thing as well. And he was very good value, as well as an exceptional job.
Okay. We'll try all these people because I think, I mean, last time we tried a number and we just...
But what I felt like the wayside, didn't it?
Well, a lot of them, as soon as I told them it was triple SI, even though I said we were,
Yeah, I don't know if he deals with that, but that's just,
Yeah.
it's another number to try.
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Right. My first question is... Oh yeah, sorry.
Drop it down quick before your battery goes flat.
It's not repairing the ramp, it's completely replacing it.
I think some of the prices are paying for not moving there.
Well, we were, when they are now.
Yeah.
Right. First question. The police report regarding Tony Hood's investigation. Is there an actual document?
No.
And is there a reason why there isn't?
I don't know, they just said there wasn't. No. there's no reason I've been provided with. They didn't set, what I mean is there may well be a police report. They haven't sent a report to us as the reporting, as the victim.
Isn't it report?
Yeah. So we haven't got any report from the police.
The contract for John Wood landscaping, do we, as a parish councillor, in light of the accusation regarding the financial position of a former councillor, have to revoke the contract on the grounds that potentially one of the members of the council may or may not be related to the business financially? And if we do, does that have an implication on us? Does that open us up to breach of contract with the person who has the tender? So the question, sorry.
So it's twofold, isn't it?
Yeah. So do we feel that we are happy that that contract remains in place, given the fact that there's evidence to suggest that there is a link between former Councillor Hood and JHL?
There was always a link with his son.
Yeah,
You know what I'm asking?
Financial link. I think,
Well, is there, because we haven't got the evidence one way or another.
Apart from
We're not hoping the police would give us that
Apart
evidence.
from we have VAT evidence, and the VAT is in Councillor Hood's name currently. So
I think the thing is, it's like, if he had never been a councillor, if he wasn't, would it be a problem to us that we were employing a business that had VAT registered in a family member's name? Is the first question. Is that an issue?
well, hypothetically, if the
It is.
well,
Right.
if you have a business claiming VAT on behalf of somebody else who who says they're not connected to the business, then is the VAT valid for that business? I am VAT registered at my garage. I'm not VAT registered at the pub. So if I was to give somebody a VAT registered invoice from the pub, I would be committing an offence. So I am VAT registered, but the pub's not. And I am VAT registered, and the garage is because of association to me. So are we paying a company VAT who essentially aren't VAT registered? Because we have a document that says, I have no involvement in this business. So we've paid a VAT invoice just to a company who claims not to be, well, are they claiming not to be VAT registered?
No, they're claiming to be VAT registered.
So then if they're claiming to be VAT registered and we know who the VAT registry is, there has to be a connection. So in the light of that evidence, are we happy to allow it to continue? And if we don't, does then that put us in breach of a contract with them? So if we revoke their contract, we are then opening up.
I would say if you're going down that line, no, because you're saying that they're contracted. Well, no, because we contracted them for the VAT registration.
I was VAT registered for many years, until about 5 years ago, and every quarter I had to sign in my name a form declaring the VAT that I paid and the VAT that people had paid me against my invoices, and that was down to me personally. If I'd been a larger company rather than a sole trader, then the company secretary or directors would have signed.
Yeah.
So the payments are legally linked to the person who's registered for the VAT, and I think that unless the alleged error in the name in the VAT registration has been corrected, then I think it does put us in a difficult position of not being able to continue the contract. Because we're paying, out of the money we pay, the VAT would apparently be going to Councillor Wood, and the payment going to John, son. Then you're not supposed to make money out of that
So,
It's a good point, but I don't feel sufficiently informed to be able to give you an answer.
I just
Well, we have asked for
feel
information and we've not got it,
Yeah.
that's part of the problem.
that we've gone to every single body that we could have done for advice and support on this,
And
and none of them have seemed to be bothered or told us where we lie with it. The difficulty that we have in this is that who is going to do the work if we pull out of this contract, and at what increased cost, to the parish. And I know that's not a reason enough to carry on, but
it's not, I'm afraid.
can we stop there 1 second?
Well, two simple questions. Who have you got a contract with at the moment?
John Hood Landscape.
That wasn't on the contract.
Sorry?
That name does not appear on the contract you signed. So my question is,
You'll forgive
who
me.
have you got a contract with?
John Hood Landscaping and Garden Services.
Well, I've just said the contract didn't have that name on it.
Who did it have on?
Oh, right, yeah.
It was signed as of the manager, if my memory.
John Hood.
The
And
manager.
who was he? And I'll give you the wording. And he represented myself. So the next question is, you've got a VAT registration in the name of ex-councillor Hood.
Yeah.
It's on an invoice with the name of John Hood Landscaping on it.
Yeah.
That clearly means he owns that business.
And where we left it
Now,
last
I don't know what yous are all pussyfooting around for,
Well, Gary, feel free.
with the exception of yourself, John, who was trying to push them in the right direction.
Feel free to speak your mind. I don't.
Well, I'm actually just asking very simple questions. Now, you've got a finance committee
Yes.
who, I assume got some knowledge about finance. You've actually indicated yourself your experience with that. So it sounds to me like you all know exactly what the position is, and yet you seem to be incapable of actually recognising what you need to do. Can I just say, the police that you've referred to, I've been in touch with the police. I'm not even the victim, and I've got more information than you have. The reason you've got no information, you haven't requested it. Again, if you look at the Justice Department guidance on victims and their rights, you're totally entitled to be kept up to date and given all the information of what's happening on that investigation. And if they choose not to progress with it, they need to tell you why. So can you tell me, has anybody asked for a report from the police?
I haven't asked for a report, but they did tell me why. They told me that there were evidential difficulties and that they weren't progressing.
That there were?
Evidential difficulties, I think the same thing as they told you.
Evidential
Yeah.
difficulties.
Yes, and then what did you say at the end of it?
And they weren't progressing.
They were not going to take any further action.
Uh-huh.
Which is,
But they also said, which the bit you missed out, was that Felton Parish Council, or more specifically what they described as the victim, refused to support them in a prosecution.
Yes, because they asked that question, and I asked the councillors who all informed me verbally that they would not want to support a prosecution.
Verbally?
Yes. It wasn't at a meeting. Because it was between meetings.
Oh, I see. So an important issue like this you dealt with some verbal communication which you've not discussed in a parish council meeting, and yet the police have been told Felton Parish Council will not support this prosecution.
Yes.
But you haven't had a
And do you think
report.
that's adequate in a police investigation? Actually, for a crime that you reported as the parish council. So you report a crime and then...
I think it's perfectly adequate, and it was the correct answer for the parish council to give.
Well,
you might disagree.
You haven't actually you haven't actually discussed this in a public forum.
Well, actually, as
You've held a private discussion and made a decision that's not in the public domain.
So the parish council has not made that decision. But
We've only become aware of it because I've asked this question now and Claire has revealed it.
But getting back to this, you've already established that the contract is in Young John's for himself, that the bill has been paid to somebody that's different.
Yes, and where
And that
I don't believe the bill has been paid to different bank details than previously.
No.
But
well, you,
No, hold on.
sorry, but
You have no details of the bank, the person that holds that bank account.
it could be always have been being paid to. So you actually have no idea.
where we left it with Tony Hood was that it was an error and that the account would be sold. So my own personal opinion is I think we are within our right to go back to the person who holds the council contract and say we'd like to see the evidence. But
Of what? The evidence?
of whether the VAT is or isn't still in.
As of today, it's still in his
Well, it is, I've just looked.
ex-councillor Hood's.
Right. So then my next question is it now still a problem for an ex-councillor to hold a contract in the light of the subject? Because if we revoke the contract if we revoke the contract and re-tender it, we could potentially put ourselves in a position where we'll have no one to do the job. We could potentially, and I'm just, we may put ourselves open to breach of contract. We may, might not, might. And thirdly, if we were to re-tender the contract and they reapplied, do we have any right to ask the financial background of a company other than where are we paying the money, how are you providing the service, how can you promise the service will be up to standard? So if we are happy with the service that JHL has carried out, are we then putting ourselves in a difficult position by revoking the current contract? And in that thought, do we then let the current contract go to its natural end? And that's my issue. Yeah, no?
Yeah, it'd be.
I think it was a 2-year contract, wasn't it? 3-year contract. So it's 2 years left.
Well, 2 years less what I would have this year.
So do we feel that the contract should be? So go back to how this is written. The situation was the resignation of John Anthony Hood from Felton Parish Council was a voluntary action which endeavoured to act as severance to any misconstrued allegiance between John Anthony Hood and John Hood Landscape and Garden Services. The situation was reported to all relevant bodies, including the Northumbria Police, and as far as the Parish Council is aware, no further action has been taken by those parties. Subsequently requested the Felton Parish Council in relation to the situation between John Anthony Hood and John Hood Landscape and Garden Services. It is 9:15. We'll have to extend the meeting if we go any further. What would we want to do?
Well, let's say then we'll revisit it.
Revisit the half-past.
Yeah.
Should we give it another 15 minutes? Yeah. Well, 15 minutes. So as such, the accident contract between Felton Parish Council and John Hunt Landscape and Garden Services stands, and it may even be considered a breach of contract to do otherwise. I'm not prepared to carry out this me talking. I'm not prepared to propose this resolution now, but the proposed resolution is to ratify the continuation of the Parish Council's contract. Yeah, it is asking here, are we happy to re-award the contract?
Do we actually have to re-award?
Oh, no, sorry.
In mid-term,
to ratify
continue should be the word.
to
Ratify the
yeah.
continuation.
To confirm that we're continuing it,
Yeah.
despite the circumstances.
But we're not voting.
We're not voting on this, but if you're happy to talk about it.
Then we're going to have the same conversation next time. Or vote that, you know, depends on.
I'm not prepared to vote now, but I don't mind talking about it.
I think it's definitely needs to be what this council as possible.
Sorry, Greg, go ahead.
I just want to say that second paragraph again, where you say, as far as the parish council is concerned, no further actions have been taken. Again, just to reiterate, there's no further action taken because the parish council said that it would take any further action.
And also the monitoring officer at NCC, once Councillor Hood had resigned, that there is no action to take because he has resigned. If he'd stayed on as a councillor, then they would have looked at that action and they would have made a decision as to whether or not there was something to take forward, but because he resigned.
So can I ask a question that's not written here? If, for whatever reason, the parish council decided to sever the contract and they were willing to reapply, can I ask that question? Yeah. And they were willing to reapply, because there's a grey area over the VAT registration, would we be happy to accept them, or would we ask for further information?
Well, if they were an unknown company to us, we wouldn't know there was a grey area or whether they needed it.
No,
No,
but
ignorance is not a defence, but if it was somebody else from somewhere else, we wouldn't know that, and then we would still take them on.
You would then, for instance, if you went down that line and say, right, you prove this is you and this is your company, this is your VAT number, you need to do that for every single tender that you're going to for.
Yeah.
But which wouldn't be the normal procedure.
But if you've got doubt, due diligence, there's nothing wrong with taking due diligence and just...
Well, in fact, it's a requirement to carry out due diligence on contracts.
I do agree with you. I also think due diligence should have been exercised by the parish council before most of us ever came on the scene. So there is a problem that, you know, and the fact that he gives us a contract that is a piece of paper, handwritten, signed, you know, whatever he signed, is because, you know, that is what the council has accepted for, I don't know how long.
It was
He's
just
been
that
doing
one.
it for years and years.
No, that
So,
was the first.
you know,
Sorry, that was the first contract.
Just to point out, the council does actually employ a responsible financial officer, and it would be actually her job to carry out the due diligence, not you as a councillor or the previous councillors.
Well, I'm inclined to disagree, but...
No, that it's actually in the it's actually how it works, councillor. But to be fair, that this was the first contract that was put out to tender in an extremely long time, you know, as to, you know, 10 whatever years, whatever. So that is one of the roles that.
Yeah, I would, to answer John's question, I would say we need to be clear, you know, if there are two different names appearing from any contractor, we need to know what the relationship is. And we need to be sure that if we're paying VAT invoices, that the VAT's being accounted for by the company that is carrying out the work that we're paying for. Because, you know, there could be something going on. We could be hit by the repercussions. We'd be paying money to a company that's not doing work.
It's actually a legal requirement for people dealing with that and with contractors, etc. It's a legal requirement to actually confirm that they are VAT registered and who the people are, etc., etc. So ignorance isn't a defence.
No, I'm not saying it is.
I'm just making a point.
Yeah, no, we've heard the point before.
Well, obviously you're not taking them in, unfortunately.
Just a thought, I don't know if it's feasible or not. Can the council go to JHL and say you've got 1 month to give us proof that you've changed the VAT registration? Otherwise, we will be ceasing the contract. So you're giving them a chance to prove it. You're giving them, you give them a timeline. I don't know if that's feasible. I don't know enough about VAT to know whether
But
months.
do we have the right to do that?
Well, yes, because at the moment it's not.
Well, on the basis that I see it as an issue, I would like that question answered. Right, so I said I'm not going to put forward a proposal for a resolution, and on the basis that there's only 5 of us here, I'm going to stand by that. Anybody has anything else they want to say on it, or can we move on?
Just to say that obviously the questions that you've asked, John, as you know, bear no resemblance to what's on this agenda. So I would be interested to know who actually wrote this or put forward this resolution.
The other members that aren't here, because I have asked that question, the other members,
the point being that the first paragraph, as an example, is written like a statement of fact.
While I don't disagree with you, it depends on how you read it, because when you put a proposal forward, you have to state something to propose. So personally, I would have maybe read my question. Well, I did read my questions out, and I'm happy that I've got some answers towards them. In this particular case, the proposed resolution is there, and it's quite clear. We aren't going to propose that resolution tonight, so we'll see. We'll okay. Number 15. In closed session to discuss the grant funding, to confirm that all facts were presented to the Parish Council regarding the need to exclude the public from the discussion around grant funding at the meeting on the 6th of February 23, and that the Parish Council does not consider itself to be misled in the matter by Councillor Souther when he quoted from the grant document or by the words or actions of Councillor Cuthbert or the Clerk.
Well,
I personally didn't feel led into, I don't like closed sessions. I've been on the receiving end of both. I've been very frustrated at closed sessions in the past. I do wholeheartedly believe in clarity and transparency, and at that particular meeting I don't feel like my opinion was swayed, but in the information that I read, I took from it that it wasn't to go into the domain quite yet, but it was my intention and is my intention moving forward to thoroughly disclose what happened during that closed session, and at the right time I would answer any questions, and I don't feel like there was anything discussed that as soon as we feel fit to read it out, I wouldn't like to say it, you know what I mean?
I have to apologise that I had not fully read the agenda for that night, and I have requested that that was going to be put into closed session on the agenda, because I was aware that it was going to need to be, which I think created a air of confusion and distrust, because we were having to discuss it and whether or not we were going to close it. I knew that it needed to be closed, and I thought I put the request in, and I didn't check the agenda, and I apologise for that.
Can I just ask on what grounds you thought it should be closed?
Because we had had direct and personal communication saying that it would need to be closed and that we couldn't discuss it within the public domain.
Can I ask from who?
From an organisation.
Right. Because that's not the information that was provided by the councillor when the information, the request was asked. The information provided by the councillor said that news of the grant. So once the award's been made, it's not to be made public until it's been announced in their publicity thing,
Yes.
which is
And all we
fine.
can repeat is that the information that we were discussing was confidential and can't be disclosed yet.
So was that information from the Scouts?
No.
Because the company themselves say that they're happy. In fact, it should be discussed because it's public money that's being spent.
No.
Well, that's not
This
the impression we
the
gave us.
information, we were specifically told not to discuss the information in public until a later date.
So can I ask who the contact is with this grant organisation then?
It's not a local organisation.
Well, I know who the organisation is.
You've referenced it before.
So that's fine, but we can't disclose the information from that closed session.
This is a...
Can I, sorry. My take and my opinion on it is until we have satisfied the grant application, it isn't right to advertise that we're getting the money for one or two reasons. And it could be as simple as they want the publicity and they want to, whoever, the organisation involved want to say, we are doing this and Felton Parish Council is going to get this.
So,
And it could, I thought and think it could have jeopardised our position by disclosing what little information we had. And we're getting nearer to the point where the grant,
this isn't to do. So this isn't to do with the main application.
No.
I think where the confusion's coming in, but we can't disclose.
I completely see why you're seeing that, but the thing is, there was an honest, genuine reason for it. We've had honest, genuine communication, and I would just like it if you would just trust us on this. We're not trying to mislead anybody or anything on it. We're not doing anything underhand or anything. We just got told you cannot discuss this publicly at this time, and that is it. And we're here trying to do something good, and you come under this scrutiny and criticism and things for it, and it's absolutely horrible, Fiona. All we've done
Can we just
is
stick
done
to the-
exactly what we got told
Can
to
we
do.
stick to the topic of conversation, please?
So in effect, you're still on the first part of the application. Is that right? The expression of interest.
All we've done
Right,
is
no,
an
no, no,
expression of
yeah,
interest,
expression of
and that was
interest. Right, and Lindsay,
Can I-
and Lindsay read out from the expression of interest. He read out his
No, he
statement.
didn't read out from the expression of interest form.
It was from another communication.
It's from a different communication, and we can't disclose it, and we will as soon as we can.
So it's a different organisation to the one that your application.
It's not to do with the main application to the Youth Investment Fund.
Well, that's the item you were discussing on the agenda.
No.
Yes, it was.
To confirm that all facts were presented to the Parish Council regarding the need to exclude the public from the discussion. To get a question out of that sentence, I did not feel, and like I said at the beginning of this, I don't like a closed session, but I did not feel that I wanted to talk about this in a public setting because I did not want to jeopardise the possibility of doing something good in this village. Now, I also did send an email to say that full disclosure and any question I would love to answer, but up until the point where we get or don't get this grant, I'm not prepared to jeopardise that by saying something that I shouldn't.
Well, there's no public disclosure clauses to stop you doing it. I've been in touch with SIB. They've confirmed to me there is no public disclosure conditions on their grant process, either in the expression of interest or the application process.
So why are they asking us not to talk about it?
Well, we've asked you, who would SIB has told you that?
So
That I can go back to SIB, to the person I've been communicating with.
Excuse me for interrupting, Gary. We have said that at the time that we believe is right, we will disclose absolutely every piece of information.
But the information's already in the public domain in
No,
terms of
it's
SIB.
not.
In terms of SIB in that fund money, at the moment they're actually dishing out no less than £300,000 on the bigger
We've
projects.
said to you that it is not to do with that main application.
I'm referring to what was discussed in the meeting, which is what this item's about. I don't know what you're talking about.
It was information that related to that agenda item and funding which could not be discussed publicly.
It's 9:31, we're 16 minutes past the 15 minutes we're going to go allowed. Are we happy to extend it another 15 minutes? All those in favour?
Can I just ask why?
Why
Why
what?
are you doing this?
Why?
Yes, why?
Well, I think
Because you haven't actually got a legitimate reason to exclude the public from the meetings. You haven't got one. You haven't been able to produce it tonight because when you were asked what or who has told you that, you refused to tell us.
Because that doesn't mean we haven't got a legitimate reason, Gary.
Pardon?
That isn't the same as saying we haven't got a legitimate reason. It's just that we're not telling you a piece of information that you've asked for. It's not the same as saying there is. The legitimate reason is that we have been told not to disclose. So therefore it is confidential information.
And can I ask another question on the back of that?
Yeah.
Can I ask you to set aside this particular matter up until the grant application is awarded or not?
No, there's other issues involved in all this which
But
are currently not being openly discussed.
Hang on, Gemma. If you don't know the full detail, and we aren't prepared to tell you, I'm asking you if you'll shelve it up until a point where the grant application is applied for. And I'm only asking that so we can start going around. Gary, I'm asking a simple question.
You're free to do anything you like.
I think, well, no, you are actually.
You are.
But actually,
you sit there with all the cards and information, and we as members of the public have to try and find out what's going on in our own.
when does the close? When does the fund? Yeah, we have. We've been told.
So what do you think's going on?
I'm about.
In addition to making a grant application.
You're asking,
I'm asking.
Yeah,
yes.
right. So the fund closes in the summer.
Sorry?
The fund closes in the summer. It
That's
doesn't.
correct. No, is that correct?
Yes, but
it doesn't. No,
right.
it doesn't.
Yeah, right.
It's
So
one at a time, please.
It doesn't. It's still open, right?
it doesn't close till March 2025.
Okay, so when there's little snippets, which I won't go into the other snippets, but when there's other little snippets that we are told as members of the public, which are not correct, that are being told to the rest of the council, then I'm sorry, Gemma, then my little antenna's go, well, that's not true. That's not right. Sorry, Claire, I'm speaking. Then that is why. So you're asking a reason why. So those are the reasons why. There's little snippets that come out to the councillors that we know not to be correct. So that is why we're a bit.
I disagree that there's anything incorrect. This is not. You are talking, Gary. The information that Gary has put forward, where he's looked at, especially there is an expression of interest form has been completed for the main application. The conversation that was confidential is not relating to the main application, and we are not allowed to disclose what the conversation related to at the present time. I have had an email today confirming that I asked them specifically. We cannot disclose the information at the present time.
So on the basis of that, I'm asking you to give us some time, and we can set a date now if you wish, but give us some time to work on this grant because it is for the betterment of the village, and let us do what we deem is right. And we are elected by everyone in this village to try and do the best job that we possibly can, and you are standing in the way.
I take offence at that actually, because actually out of everything we've actually just you've got on with it. The only element that I actually found extremely disappointing was this business about the working group. I actually said to one member of the council in October, what a great thing it is that you do get a working group together so that you can actually do some of this work and get on and do it. But did you set up a working group? No, you didn't. There's no terms of reference for it. And please, Claire, don't make any reference to it. You did it at the meeting. So we've left it alone, except, like I've said, there's been various elements come out which we actually know not to be the case.
So would you prefer the whole project to be abandoned? You obviously feel very dissatisfied.
No, actually, no, Richard, I think that you've not put words into my mouth, because I think I've been on the committee, the Retfield committee, a few years ago, and actually was very keen to get things going. I'm quite interested in getting sport, especially for young people, and actually sort of for the older people of the village. So I'm all for getting some sort of...
But you don't trust us to do it?
No, that's not true.
No, it is true.
No, what I'm hearing is
it's being recorded now, which hopefully the public will see.
Oh, well, they will see it. But what I'm saying to you is, because we're hearing elements that are not true, then that
I've just quoted one to you before.
One, and I'm only quoting one. But there are...
What element is not true?
You said the scheme
closes.
closes
You said the scheme
in the summer.
closes in its entirety.
I have been sent an email to say that they are. It may still be open on the website, but I have received an email to say that they are anticipating making all of the awards by this summer.
Well, I don't know which webinars you're watching,
okay.
But it's certainly not what's on the webinars that I'm watching.
I'm receiving an email directly from the organisation.
And that's not the Youth Investment Fund?
No. Yes, that is the Youth Investment Fund, because the question that Fiona has raised about the scheme closing in the summer is about the main application for the Youth Investment Fund. And I have been told that the application would need to be concluded by the summer.
And when were you told that?
By email.
When were you told?
When I raised it at the last meeting.
Right, I'm sorry, we're going to have to crack on.
Yeah.
No. Well.
Yes, you say.
Yes. Everyone that's present to confirm that all facts were presented to the Parish Council regarding the need to exclude the public from the discussion around the grant funding at the meeting on the 6th of February 23, and that the Parish Council does not consider itself to be misled in the matter by Councillor Souter, where he quoted from the grant document or by the words or actions of Councillor Clerk. So, I can confirm, I do not feel like I was misled.
I wasn't misled.
I don't think I was misled.
I did not mislead anyone.
Confirmed. Item 16, correspondence. Right, item 17, planning. We've touched on the garages, but the list of ongoing planning matters is on 14. The Mouldshaugh Lane garages, it has been granted and we object. The Oval, 2-storey side extension, a single-storey front extension is waiting still. Brage Cottage, Brage.
Opposite me, it's one of those ones at the back.
62B Main Street, a single-storey side extension has been granted. Felton CV Primary School refurbishment of an existing school building, including a recovering of flat roof and a removal of...
This is simply because the roof was being extended by a certain number of inches, so they had to...
That is awaiting decision. Land south of Fencewood Felton Fence, variation of condition is waiting for decision. And 23 Southview, variation of condition 2, approved plans is waiting a decision. We're happy to move on? 18.
I did print them out if you want them, but there's nothing very much, unfortunately, moved on. I don't think how much of an update, to be honest.
Okay.
So I don't think anything that merits staying later.
Item 19, items for the next agenda. I would like the Randwick Riverside to be on there, please.
Yeah.
Date of the next
Keep them out there.
date of the next meetings, to agree the date of the meetings followed the annual parish meeting, 27th of March 23.
We've now said the 24th before.
Yeah, 24th of 4th. At 7:15.
Yeah.
The next ordinary meeting is the 3rd of April 2023.
So that falls in school Easter holidays, but it doesn't. But it avoids the Easter weekend, so that should be okay.
The good weekend.
The chocolate bits.
And,
Say it like that.
and finally, the annual parish council meeting, 15th of May.
So that should have fallen on the 1st of May, which is at the early bank holiday. The following week, we would normally then move it down to the following week. There was the coronation,
Yeah.
so it's the 15th, and everybody's happy with that.
I'll do that. That's it then. Thank you very much for coming. Meeting closed at 21:42.